So as the new and harrowing details of the Brussels terror attack have come to light, including what may now look like some frightening missteps from Belgian authorities. You just heard from Walid Phares and the Trump campaign, who have a very different take from President Obama on how to fight and handle this and how to keep America safe. So joining us now with his thoughts, Republican Governor of Ohio and presidential candidate John Kasich. Governor, welcome. Good evening to you.
Thank you, Martha.
You know, the fact that they had this individual in custody, then they let him go. They also had Abdel Salam in custody, and it took them 24 hours to ask him a single question. They said they were worried about him because he was tired. What does this spell to you, and what would you do if you were president to make America safer than what we're seeing in Belgium?
Well, look, first of all, you know, when this happened, I would have come home from Cuba, not gone to a baseball game with Castro. Number two, I would have had my military and intelligence people brief me, and then I would have talked to all the heads of state in Europe, and I would have sent our people over there to discuss their vulnerabilities. I think now they're beginning to move in this direction. Secondly, we need to have great human intelligence. So these calls for banning Muslims from coming into the country or patrolling, you know, neighborhoods or whatever. I mean, these are people that need to be in the loop in terms of telling us about the radicals that they see, whether it's in the mosque or in their neighborhood. We need to take the entire world of the civilized countries, and we need to come together. And on top of it, Martha, we got to stop wasting our time here and not moving aggressively with our friends in the Arab Muslim world, along with Europe, to destroy ISIS, both in the air and on the ground. So you destroy ISIS, you begin to rebuild your intelligence, you share it worldwide. You take the fight against these radicals, these Islamists, bring the world together, and here in the United States, you make sure that your joint terrorism task forces can disrupt these plots here at home.
A lot of that has been, you know, tried, and some of it might work, you know, in terms of...
It hasn't been tried to the extent that you would like it to be.
I understand. In terms of NATO, Donald Trump has said that he thinks that NATO is useless in its current form, and that he wants everybody to know that the wall, you know, you say the wall's already come down, and they need to do something that's a little more instrumental. What role would NATO play in a Kasich environment?
Well, I proposed just the other day that NATO move from just a military structure into an intelligence gathering and also policing activity. That, you know, NATO is there. It works across borders. It's a perfect opportunity to use a structure like that to rebuild these things.
But they don't seem to be very enthusiastic to do that right now. Why aren't they doing that? These are their countries that are being affected, and they're not doing it.
Well, first of all, there's a big element of political correctness, bureaucracy, people stepping on each other's turf, and they don't want to do that. But that's what a leader of the United States ought to be doing. I mean, honestly, the president goes to Cuba, goes to a baseball game, he goes to Argentina, does the tango, and he should have been back here leading the way. And frankly, our people should be in Europe, and they should be coordinating all of this, because I've got to tell you, Martha, the people over there aren't going to tolerate this much longer. And frankly, they even had information from the Turks that warned them about this radicalized person. And then at the same time, you know, the head of Turkey, the president refuses to meet with. I don't get the whole thing. But as president of the United States, rebuild domestic intelligence, which we have, with our counterterrorism task forces, and bring the world together and tell them we're either going to hang together or we're going to hang separately. Do I think this can be accomplished? Absolutely it can be accomplished. But not by people. This is not amateur hour. This requires people who have had vast experience in national security, which I have had.
All right. Let me ask you a couple questions about the presidential election before I let you go. One is Wisconsin, where you have changed your strategy a bit. You're focusing on certain congressional districts, and a lot of people look at that and say that, you know, you're sort of trying to deflect the Trump effect in Wisconsin. You're looking for areas where maybe you could accumulate some delegates. Maybe it's not a bad strategy.
Well, we think it's a good strategy. You kind of go where you think you can be successful, and then we'll be rolling on to Pennsylvania, where I'm in a virtual tie with Donald Trump. And we think, you know, these are places, what's coming in the future, places where we think we can be highly competitive. And our strategy is to accumulate delegates and head into the convention with momentum, because I don't believe anybody's going to have enough delegates. and we'll be there. And let me remind everybody that I'm the only one that can beat Hillary Clinton. The latest Fox poll has me up 11. All the polls show me beating Hillary Clinton by a vast amount. So we ought to pick somebody who can win.
All right, let me ask you this, though.
Pick somebody who can win in the fall.
Let me ask you this. If Donald Trump gets to 1237, will you back off and say this is the nominee?
He's not going to get to 1237,
but if he does,
Martha. That's like saying.
If he does.
But no, that's like, look. That's like saying, well, what if a spaceman lands tonight?
Not really. I mean, he's not that far away when you look at the delegate map. So I'm just asking, we know what your scenario is if he doesn't get there, but if he does get there, does that change it?
But he's not. No, he's not going to get there. We're going to a convention. No, he's not. And look, if I had left the race, by the way, he would have won Ohio, and he would have been guaranteed about getting there. We're going to be competitive in the states going forward, and he's not going to have the delegates. And you know what? Of the 10 times that Republicans had a convention, only 3 times did the leading delegate winner was able to win the convention. In other words, just because you don't have as many delegates as the leader doesn't mean you can't win. In fact, 7 out of 10 means you do.
All right. Well, you're going to help make it a very interesting few months, and we look forward to seeing this whole thing all the way through the summer. Governor John Kasich, thank you very much.